Welcome to Legends in the Making, the show for founders, parents, and visionaries ready to lead from clarity, not chaos. I'm your host, Erin Sarles Bowers, mother, movement builder, and truth teller. This is where we disrupt culture with truth, dismantle performance-based identity, and return to what actually builds legacy, character, conviction, and the courage to stand in alignment with God. And today, I'm kind of bridging my old show that I used to have that was very spiritual based, where people wrote in just wanting advice. So I thought I'd marry the two. So I've invited parents of athletes, student athletes, CEOs, people that I work with on the day-to-day to send me letters so that we can use their real life stories and examples to have an engaging conversation. And today's letter comes from a conflicted but committed parent. Dear Legends in the Making, I'm writing this as a parent who's incredibly proud of my kid. He's a talented athlete, focused, gifted, and driven. We've poured a lot into his journey, and now that we're entering the space where NIL, name, image, likeness, opportunities are becoming real, I find myself deeply conflicted. On one hand, I think it's amazing that young athletes can be compensated for their brand and hard work. They deserve it. They've built platforms and influence that the old system never accounted for. I get it. But on the other hand, I look around and I worry. It feels like everything is becoming a performance. Like we're telling our kids that their value is found in their likes, followers, and brand deals, not in their character, work ethic, or how they carry themselves when no one's watching. I'm afraid we're raising influencers instead of leaders. I want my son to be excellent, to be known, but more than that, I want him to be solid, to know who he is apart from the money, the stats, and the platform. How do we help our kids navigate this world without losing who they are in the process? How do we raise young men and women who care more about becoming someone than being seen? Any truth or guidance you can offer would mean a lot. With gratitude, a conflicted but committed parent. And what a beautiful letter. And I think something as a mom of two student athletes that weighs on my mind when I think about what are my children being taught that is important. And we have so much feedback that's going on within our society and in our world that oftentimes I have to take a step back and remember I'm not just raising these two kids, and raising athletes, but I'm stewarding their souls. Oftentimes I have to remind myself and go back to who are we? At the core of who we are, who are we? We are our souls. We are the energy that is uniquely innate to us. That's who we are, that we came in with this divine blueprint, with a divine purpose to work within the collective of humanity to make humanity better. And we have created all this disconnect and all this separation from the truth of who we are. I think this applies to everybody, not just student athletes, but this applies to every single one of us. Is if we remember at the core of who we are, that we are an emanation of Source itself. We are part of God Himself. We were created in His image to be like Him. And we have totally disconnected from that. We have totally disconnected from the oneness that we have with everyone and everything within this universe. And through that disconnection, we've created all this separation and all this lack. And in that, we've also created things that we think we're striving for, that we think are wholly worthy, but they're really shallow and really driven by our ego. And so when I think about how do we really start to shift this, again, there's nothing wrong with creating incredible brands around these kids, but is it about who they are and the character they embody, the integrity they uphold, and the way in which they do that? Or we focused on kind of the flash in the pan, how you look in this moment, versus like, who are you and how do you treat other people around you? We see it all the time. I think social media, especially for our kids, I don't sometimes know if people know reality. We're in social media, it's almost like we're deemed that we have to be perfect, that we have to have perfection and look a certain way and be a certain way. Otherwise, we're being judged or we're being canceled. And it's like, that is not what we want to be teaching our kids. We want to be teaching our kids to understand who they are and to embody who they are and to love every aspect of who they are. Because when you are in love with yourself and wholly accept yourself for who God made you to be, you get to then gift that to the world and you get to give that to everybody else. And so the world is offering our kids a counterfeit crown, but royalty without righteousness will crumble. Like, we have all these falsehoods. And if we watch it, I watch it with even, some of these athletes that do get NIL deals, and it becomes, well, now I want to be paid more. I'm worth more. Like, there's kind of this concept of it's never enough because we don't feel worthy within ourselves. So it doesn't matter how much we accumulate, more and more and more is required. And it's like, are we teaching our kids to go, am I embodying somebody that earns that? How am I showing up in order to receive and earn that? Money is an exchange of energy. So are you delivering the highest quality energy through the character of who you are in order to receive that back? And so much of what we focused on, especially in athletics, but I think this kind of really falls in every realm, is it's very performance-based, which again, that's an important piece, especially if you want to move on to playing college or at the professional level, but it's about who you are while you're doing that. And we oftentimes miss that. It's like, oh, they can be a complete jerk or whatever and still make it to the they absolutely can. Is there a lot of sustainability in that for someone? The answer is no. So it's like, what is the quality of what we're developing our kids to be so that who they are lasts far beyond anything that they're doing, whether it's in sports, whether it's in a boardroom, whether it's as a lawyer, whatever they choose to do. But so often when I work with parents and see this, so much of the time and energy is just being put into, we just got to make you faster, run stronger, throw better, hit harder, hit whatever sport they're playing. It's like all the money is being poured into just making them better at that. Where the revolutionary work that I'm doing along with my co-founder of Blueprint to Blue Chip is, what's the character of who you are? How do you develop yourself with systems, tools, and processes to be the very best human being possible? Yes, running and all those things will carry you through, but the premise of our program at Blueprint to Blue Chip is to carry them through life, to equip them with the skills that they can come back to so that they can have the most fruitful, productive life and positively contribute to society. We are so desperately lacking leadership from my age group, leadership on down, because we are teaching people to not stand in their truth and be who they are and love themselves. And so we have such an opportunity to change the trajectory for this generation to step up and to be given the skills of how to not only lead themselves, but be an incredible leader for others so that we can have a legacy of talent and incredibleness, for a lack of better words, just because of people expressing and being able to be who they are. So again, NIL isn't the enemy, but when money becomes the measure of worth, we're already off course. So if kids think that their worth is tied to their NIL money, we have a problem. Or if they're only chasing NIL money because they feel unworthy, but maybe they're good at sports and this is their way of going, okay, see, I can make money. You are going to constantly be in a cycle of lack. Yeah, you might get that money for a short time, but it's going to burn out and you're going to come back to it. Most people don't have sustainability when it comes to success and wealth because they're always, when you start from a place of lack, yeah, you might attract, but you're always going to go back into that state and there's nothing sustainable. So how do you build something that's solid? How do you build what's not being seen necessarily through Instagram, but also how do you build something real? How do you teach your kids to build something real? Because let's be honest, every day is not a great day. When you think of athletes, just as that being our reference point, you might go take 500 shots that day and you might miss 75% of them. Not every day is a great day. But are we developing mental resiliency to keep going back? And do we tell that story? So oftentimes what we see projected into the world is just success. And we don't see all the struggle that went on underneath that in order to make that happen. And so we have such an incredible opportunity in front of us to help build a more real, character-based, integrity-based society through how we teach our kids. Character is who you are. It's the essence of who God made you to be. It's when the lights are off. No, that's who you are. And then we have integrity. It's how you go act in the world based on your character. Does every action you take align with who you are? And then what is the discipline or what are the system structures and tools that you have in place in order to make sure that your character is always being the one that's being expressed, your integrity is leading your actions. So that's where discipline comes in, as it creates the system so that then you become on autopilot and you're not having to think about it. And as parents, we have tools that we get to use. We have to also lead with character and integrity, and discipline, but are we also providing the spiritual cover to allow our children to find themselves, help them find their calling? Who are they? What are they supposed to do? Are we having deep, meaningful conversations that get them tied into who they are? Are we practicing things that connect them into that? So that's the energy that they're showing up in the world with. We all have a calling, we all have a purpose, but most of the time, most of us don't figure it out. Most of the time, we just live this life of unrest and unhappiness and turmoil versus because we're living out of alignment with why God put us here. So how do we help our kids find who they're supposed to be? What's their calling? here and not make it about money and how much money they're going to make. I mean, how I even think of conversations I have with my kids. It's like, well, if I'm a doctor, I'll make this much money. Are you called to be a doctor? Is that what you want to be doing? And so this is where we have such an opportunity to invite our children in and to remind them that they are a divine soul with a divine purpose and worth. They are worthy. They are perfect, whole, and complete, and that they're not for sale. You didn't raise them for likes or, brand deals. You raised them to make a difference in the world, and that they are built for something eternal, and that their life's work is to find who they are and to express that in the world. And how do you help invite them in and anchor that in and to lead from that standard and to not apologize for who God made them to be? If they are anchored in love and treating others with love, they should never be apologizing for who they are. We have an opportunity to end cancel culture. We have an opportunity to bring more light and love into the world by helping our children understand who they are and how they share that with the world. We have such a tremendous opportunity to change the trajectory. And when I look at the world, it can feel very dark, very dark. So the only way you drive out darkness, it's the absence of light. So we have to bring more light, which is more love, more clarity to this earth and to this world, so that we are shining our light so bright that it shines away the darkness. And so our work is to help our children remember it's not about your 440 time. It's not about your batting average. It's not about how many goals you scored. It's about who you are and how are you using athletics as an expression of that to be a vehicle for your calling into the world. And so we have big work to do. And I would love to invite anyone in that would love to work with me and my co-founder to raise exceptional kids, raise exceptional athletes. And the beauty that we offer with this 5-day reset is that it is absolutely free, with it one ask that you donate to the charity of our choice to work with us for 5 days. So if that hits your heart and that calls to you, DM the word reset, message me, comment to me in the show notes, reset, and we will connect. And if you want to write your own letter to Dear Source, again, DM me. I will send you my email and we will get your story shared. And I just cannot wait to continue to build this movement of bringing character, integrity, and discipline back to our youth through sports so that we can change the world. Thank you for joining me on Legends in the Making.